Hey everybody, it's Angie and welcome to Hot and Flashy. Today's video is going to be the first Foundation Friday for over 50s for 2016. I'm so psyched to be continuing this series into the new year, and hopefully this year we're going to find maybe another or maybe a couple of more Holy Grail foundations for mature skin. Now, as you know, mature skin has a whole host of, what should I call them? Difficulties that it presents when trying to choose a good foundation that looks good, makes you look more youthful, and doesn't accentuate the things that make you look a little bit older. I decided to start the series this year by looking at some of my favorites from 2 years ago. In 2013, I tested about 52 different foundations, and of those, there were there are actually 4 that I really liked a lot. One of those has been discontinued, but of the 3 that are still available, I decided to retest them this year, put them through the more vigorous Foundation Friday testing. So the first foundation for 2016 in the hot seat is Estee Lauder Double Wear Light. This one, on the week that I tested it, I put it head to head with 5 other high-end foundations. Estee Lauder Double Wear Light retails for $38 for a 1-ounce tube, and it comes in 10 different shades. The shade I got it in is Intensity 2.0. So what Estee Lauder has to say about their foundation is that it is a long wear, lightweight, sheer to medium coverage, natural finish foundation that's oil-free and oil controlling. So looking at the formula, it's basically a water and some silicones formula. It's not a total silicone bomb like some of them are. This one also contains no drying alcohol. It is paraben free and fragrance free. So if you have super sensitive skin, this could actually work quite nicely for you. So let's go into day 1 and I'll show you how this went on the first time I tried it. Day 1 baseline test for every foundation is to use it over my normal morning skincare routine products and to apply it with my fingers. The texture is creamy and a little stiff, so it doesn't glide over the skin as easily as some other foundations. It has a slightly thick, tacky feel when applying, which gives you time to blend it and build it up. It blends nicely, though not completely even, and fairly sheer. Tone correction is good, but blemishes and freckles still need concealer. It didn't settle into pores or most wrinkles, but it did settle into forehead ripples slightly. This has a nice semi-matte finish that helps pores look slightly less noticeable, and because it's not shiny, it doesn't need any setting powder. At the 5-hour check-in, I was surprised to see that it was starting to wear off already. The rest of my face looks the same, there's no settling into pores or wrinkles, and it's not becoming shiny in my T-zone. At the 10-hour check-in, it's worn off unevenly and it looks dry and flaky in patches. It didn't feel drying, even though when I did look at it up close at 10 hours, it was a little dry and flaky. Let's keep in mind it is January in New England, so it is not the best time of year to be trying a foundation like this that's not a moisturizing formula. Alright, so then moving on to day 2, I applied it using a Beauty Blender blending sponge. I used 2 pea-sized squeezes to build up more coverage, and this gave improved opacity and even better coverage than applying with the fingers. The blemishes and freckles were covered better, it settled in forehead ripples less, and again, it didn't settle into pores at all. Building up to medium coverage made it look more matte and a little flatter than when applied more sheer. So I didn't really love the look. I felt like it was slightly mask-like. It just seemed to be like really kind of opaque and flat. At the 5-hour check-in, the wear is much improved with medium coverage and the sponge application. At the 10-hour check-in, the makeup is still in place. It's only slightly worn off on my nose. There is no forehead shine, but it does look dry and flaky around my mouth and chin. Alright, so then moving on to day 3, I tried to use a more moisturizing primer underneath. The one that I ended up going with was the Smashbox Photo Finish Light Primer. And the Real Techniques blending sponge, I decided that I like it a little more sheer, so I didn't put on quite so much today, and I really like the Real Techniques blending sponge for applying a nice sheer coating of the foundation. Let's take a look at it up a little closer. You can see that it still would require some concealer if you really wanted to have perfect coverage of every blemish and every freckle. It doesn't settle into wrinkles or my pores. You can see that in the close-up. So all in all, I think it's giving a really nice, even coverage. I feel like right now it looks really good. Of course, I'll wear it all day today and come back and tell you how it wore. I'm back for the 5-hour check-in. Today, this is wearing pretty much the same as it did the other times that I applied it with the blending sponge. So in this case, the primer has really not made a huge difference. Okay, close-ups. It's time for the 10-hour check-in, even though it's really been 11 hours. So I went to the movies and got home a little bit late. What I'm noticing is that with this primer, it did slide around a little bit right here on my forehead. There's some weird little spots. And this helped a little bit with the drying. I'm not quite so dry and flaky. Overall, I think it looks good. It's not worn off much at all. All right, so now that we've seen it in action on 3 separate days, let me give you the wrap up of how it performed in each of the categories that I think are important when evaluating a foundation. For the coverage, it offers sheer to medium coverage. It stays damp for a little while, tacky, so that you do have time to work it and build it up to full medium coverage. I don't like it as much at medium coverage. I much prefer it at sheer coverage. But at sheer coverage, of course, then you do need to add a little bit of concealer to cover over, your blemishes or age spots. All right, the next category is the finish. This has a really nice, almost matte finish. It is a little flatter than skin-like. Since it is closer to matte, you can add your radiance where you want it by adding in a little highlighter or something. Moving on to the pores, I feel like it's very nice to the pores. It's almost smoothing. It definitely does not settle in them. You don't get the polka dot face with this by any stretch of the imagination. And because it is matte, it doesn't make the pores look bigger. So it's not trying to do any blurring, but yet it has the effect of minimizing pores a tiny bit. On the wrinkles, it doesn't settle into any major wrinkles, but where I have like little ripples on my forehead, it does settle into those a little bit. It's not the kind of settling where anyone can really see it. It's not that bothersome. On the wear, applied with the fingers, the wear was less. Applied with a sponge, the wear was increased to a full 10 hours. Adding a primer like the Smashbox primer, it's going to wear 12 hours, no problem. For the feel, the face feel is a little tacky at first, but then once it dries back, it's a very smooth, powdery, kind of velvety feel. It's very nice and soft and light. From the face feel, it doesn't feel heavy. Even though at times I feel like it can look a little mask-like at medium coverage, it doesn't feel heavy. So I wasn't aware of wearing it. Let's go ahead and do the phone test. Here is my nice clean phone glass. And, that is pretty darn good. That's a good phone test. I was wondering if we were ever going to get a good one. Next is flash photography, and here's the flash picture. It doesn't have a lot of mica and reflective particles in it. It doesn't give you any flashback. So what's the verdict on Estee Lauder Double Wear Light? It's not going into the Hall of Fame as a Holy Grail foundation. It is very, very good. Because it does have more of a flat matte finish to it, it doesn't look as youthful as some of the things that have that slight radiant finish. This isn't going to give you any kind of a diffused effect or anything like that. If someone's looking at your skin up close, they'll be able to see your wrinkles. It's not going to do anything to help them. It's not really hurting them either. But where it can be a little bit drying, this is probably better for people with oily skin or combination skin. You definitely will not look shiny and greasy wearing this ever. It could probably last through a hot flash. I didn't have one any of the days that I was wearing it, so I don't know for sure. And so I'm going to say that for dry skin people, this is probably not the foundation for you. This is probably a great foundation for people who like a more full coverage matte makeup look. If that's the look that you love and you still have oily skin, then this could be your Holy Grail foundation. It's not mine, but it's still a very good product. So that is my complete review on Estee Lauder Double Wear Light Stay in Place Foundation. I hope that you enjoyed the first Foundation Friday of the year. Thanks everybody for watching. As always, I really appreciate your time, and I will see you in the next video. So take care everybody. Bye-bye.